Welcome everybody to today's webinar. So a little bit of what we're covering today with our online software will be an overview of the dashboard, providing some tips and tricks for just managing the office and you guys getting ready for season. We'll also go over a few ways you can start a tax return. One of those ways is actually having an estimate generated from without doing a return. Then we'll get into the return flow and what that return flow process is and the key steps of depreciation, our due diligence, and how you transmit and verify for any errors. And then finally, I'll go showcasing features like our document archive, how to request documents from your taxpayer, and our TaxPass, which is a mobile website for your taxpayers. So a lot to cover today. So a lot of our time is going to be spent within the software. So let's go ahead and get to it. So we're going to go ahead and toggle in. And if you're new to online, if this is your first season, just to reiterate, it's fully web-based. You're just going to go to crosslinkonline.com, and this would be the homepage. So definitely hit the star at the top of your browser, and you can bookmark it. So this way you just have it easily accessible on your website. And when you do log in, we do have two-factor. So as we know, security is a big thing, not only for us protecting our clients and also you protecting your taxpayers. So we do have two-factor turned on for our online software. You can set it up one or two ways. You can set it up where you can get a code sent to your email, or if you want to download an app, and here is a tab of what it is. It's Google Authenticator. You can definitely download the app first before you activate your login. And this way, when you see the QR code, you can definitely get that verification code to populate like this. Okay, so those are the two main ways and only ways you can authenticate your online process. And if you did bypass the app, I will show you where you can get that QR code again. So that is just, I do stress that. It's a quick, easy thing. But again, let the email be a backup. So when I do click continue, I'll just hit up on my authenticator. I'm going to choose my username. And then I just copy and paste that code into my box. And I click submit. And you would do the same thing if you went ahead and got that via your email. So once we do validate, we are now at our dashboard. And the level I'm at today is an office admin level, but I'll also cover the preparer level dashboard as well. And what you see at the office level here is on our left-hand side, these are your side navigation where you have different tabs that show you the software, the different navigation parts. As you want to stress, your tax returns on the left-hand side is where you will see all the returns that have been started within your office. So if you have multiple preparers, this would be like your collection point of all returns between all of your preparers. If you wanted to break down your returns by preparer, you do see the preparers tab, and I have about 6 preparers in my office, and I can easily see who has started working on returns and who hasn't, such as Tony. Tony has started a return, and so has Priscilla, myself, has started a return, and not so many others. And you can easily click view. When you click view on a preparer's name, that will bring you to the preparer level of the dashboard. So this is what your preparers see when you are logged into the software. They have a condensed view of just seeing tax returns because that's their main focus. They're cranking out those returns all season long. And you can click on their tax returns and you can see the returns that that preparer has started specifically under their PTIN. So there's a nice way of, again, managing those different preparers all throughout your office. And when you want to go back to the office level, we'll click exit to my dashboard at the top left, and that's going to bring me back to my office view. Okay, so that's just a quick way to manage your preparers there. And you can take a note that we do have different areas. So if you're banking with TPG Santa Barbara or Republic, This is where you print checks within the software. We have different quick report options where you can run your reports. And then your office settings is located at the bottom level. I'm not going to spend time in office settings, but that is where you add your PTINs, your logins, you set up your billing schedule, you activate check stock, right? All the settings that make your office run is going to be there. So just make sure if you haven't already taken the time to go through it, you definitely click on it. And if you see a progress bar at the top that says complete setup, that's where you need to go to is your office settings. Okay. Moving over to the top half of our software, we have a search feature right here where you next to the CrossLink logo, and you can easily start typing in a last name of your taxpayer or the last four of a social, and it's going to start filtering to that return. It's a quick way you can look up your taxpayers without going to the tax returns tab. And it's when you click on their name, it's going to bring you right to their tax return. So that is a nice, neat feature that we have built in where you can easily find your tax returns. Or if you have multiple preparers in your office, you can also search by preparers. So that is a quick search for you right there. And then lastly, on our top right-hand side of our software, you do have a help section where you have some resources we provide, such as our remote tax support link. So when you call into support and you need assistance, this is where you can find that screen share tool that we use. We have a knowledge base link, the irs.gov, and where's my refund? So we have some useful links located for you on the dashboard. And when you click on the top right-hand side on your name, this is called your profile menu. The profile menu is where you see another hand of shortcuts that navigate throughout the software, but just some toggles that are pertaining to your login specifically. So we do have that TaxPass URL, and I will come back to this, but just keep that in the back of your mind. This is where you find that URL that you give to your taxpayers. You have your switching of tax years. So if you needed to do a prior year return, you click on switch tax year, and then you can see the current years or the prior years that we have listed there for you. And then also throughout here, you have the user ID number. And this is where you will see that number. Again, if you're calling into support, you can provide that number when you're on a phone call or chatting with them. And this red circle at the bottom right-hand corner, that is where you can chat with technical support. Moving throughout the list here, sorry about that, you have your signatures. And I want to stress on the signatures because you want to make sure you do your signatures. If you do your signature here, it will populate on all areas of the return. So make sure you come in, you click on your signature, and this way you don't have to sign any signatures for the rest of the season. Okay, and again, all this is located within the profile menu of clicking on your name on the top right corner. Okay, so that was a quick overview of our dashboard. And the last thing to go over is what you see on my main screen. Here are those widgets. So your office administrators, you do see widgets where it's telling you the different statuses of your tax return. Probably the most important widget here, when you do transmit a return, it will color coordinate it, whether it's pending at IRS or it's rejected at the IRS. So when you do see a number, you can definitely click on that status, and it would filter your tax returns tab to show you the returns in that status specifically. You can see that it did apply the status. I just don't have any returns that are transmitted yet. So I'll go back to my dashboard. This widget on the right-hand side, total tax returns, is telling me all the returns that have been done for this season so far. And I also have a status here that says ready for review. So with my preparers, some of them I have them in the access level of submitting for review, meaning that they do not transmit directly to the IRS. They may be submitting for review to you. So then this way you can transmit. With that, you can see that I have one return ready for review. And when I click on that, I can now see that return that I need to go in and transmit on behalf of them. So that is a nice filter. And if you're looking at the additional filters at the top of my tab here of the tax returns tab, I also see that notification. So if I didn't click on that widget and I just went to tax returns, it also shows me here I have one return ready for review, and I can also click filter list, and it's going to go ahead and filter my list there. So we are providing multiple ways for you to know which returns you need to pay attention to and transmit. And then lastly, the last two widgets would be an estimation of fees being paid to your office, where those are your prep fees that you enter on the return. And then the notification widget. It will give you updates of any text link messages that have failed to your taxpayer. So this way you can go and communicate to your taxpayer and let them know what they need to do. Or we have a messaging tool on the left-hand side called Secure Messages. Secure Messages is where you send internal messages to your preparer. So I can choose Taylor and I can say client meeting. And then, on Tuesday. And I can write Taylor a message. When Taylor logs in, she'll get that message and she'll respond to me. Just like I have some notifications here. You see that red circle, that's a 5. That's a notification letting me know that I need to go ahead and clear out some of these messages. And once I do so, you can see my notification has went to a 1. So that is, again, a nice shortcut showing me, and that widget has now cleared off and I don't need to look at those messages anymore. So again, the widgets are letting you know just in different areas that's going on with your business. So now that we went over our dashboard, let's get a look into the few ways that we're going to do a return. So the first way I want to mention is you have the capabilities of doing a quick estimate for your taxpayer. By clicking on Refund Calculator, which is on the side navigation of my software, we open up into a guided approach of an interview mode. And it's just asking for the basic data from your taxpayer. I'm not entering a social or anything like that. I'm just simply going to select the tiles that apply to the taxpayer. Okay, I selected single. Are they single? Are they head of household? And we have those links of help me decide. And then I'm going to enter in a date of birth. Hit next. And you're just basically filling in the basic questionnaire forms that you have here. So write how many children do they have? What was their income selection? Okay, just keep it simple for today. What's really nice about this method here is, again, I didn't have to do a lot of keystrokes to get this data. My refund is calculating at the top left here, the estimated refund amount. And I can just select the boxes that, apply to the taxpayer. The more they give you, the more accurate of the estimated refund would be. I can see if they pay daycare expenses. And then finally, we're at a results page. And this will show you a quick breakdown based on the data they've given you, what it would look like to them. And at the very bottom, they will see the estimated net refund amount. And as a tax preparer, you see the button Create Return. When you click on that Create Return, you are now going to enter their social, because now you actually want to build a real return for them. You'll go ahead and enter that social. And now hit Create Regular Return. And then that's going to build the return for them. It's going to add in the forms of any options I chose on that estimated refund calculator. And it's going to now open up to the return format. The refund, if you take a notice, did drop back to $1,400 versus the $7,000 it was showing, because now I have to put in the actual values, right? I have to put in the dependent information. I have to now add in their income and their source. But you can see on this bottom left-hand side, I do have my W-2 I added. I did put in that they paid child daycare expenses, so that form added. So those forms will carry into the real live return that you are going to complete. And that's just a quick snapshot of our refund calculator and how you can provide that estimation and then continue it to a live return. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close out of this return here. And we're going to go ahead and start a brand new return from what that format would be. So again, as a recap, that was the refund calculator on the left-hand side. But now if we want to start a formal tax return, we're always going to go ahead and click on our tax returns tab on the left-hand side. I want to click on new return. When we click on new return, again, we're going to enter in a social. Hit new return. And our software does default to opening up to a forms-based approach. That is where you see our client data screen. That's the first page you're always going to open up to. And then we add our forms. Okay, so that's kind of you knowing what forms your taxpayer needs or is providing to you. If you like a guided approach, we do have this button at the top that's called interview mode. And that interview mode can guide you through, just like you saw with that refund calculator, the different sections. Okay, so we do have two main ways of doing a return in our software, where today I'm going to spend most of our time on the forms-based, but I will show you the interview mode at the end. With the forms-based approach, we open up to our client data screen. This is your active window. At the top, you have your function keys. And these function keys are going to be the last stages of your tax return flow, from verify, signatures, print, and transmit. Those steps are going to be how you finish this process. And I love that they're all at the top, letting you know what they're like calling to action, what you need to do. On the left-hand side, you have what's called your attached forms panel. This here is going to show you your federal refund amount, the AGI, and if you also add a state, it will show you the state refund and AGI. Under the general section, you have your tools that we provide you, such as your invoice, your document archive. That's a filing cabinet for each of your taxpayers where you can upload documents and keep that as your storage cabinet versus a filing cabinet in your office. We have signatures, your depreciation. So these are just tools that we provide. And then below that, you see the federal section. And these are going to be all the federal forms and state forms that you add. And you're going to see this tree grow. Okay, so this is where you can see all the forms building on the return. So let's do a little bit of some data entry here as we go through our client intake form. So I'm just going to use tab and enter as we go through. Just going to go ahead and click through. And I'm just tabbing through, and you can see we do have some database options that do appear. And I'm going to show you on our cell phone carrier information, we do have the ability of gathering your taxpayer's cell phone info. So this way you can opt them in to receive text messages from the software, and they can respond back to you. And the way you do that is by filling in their cell phone. You see I have a text message field here, and when I click on this box, I want to double click or type in X, and that's marking that they would like to receive text messages from the software. You're going to go ahead and click I agree on the warning, letting them know they're communicating and receiving messages to their cell phone. And then the next field, you do need to provide their cell phone carrier information. So this is for your taxpayer's cell phone carrier, not your own. You can click the three dots and go to choices. And this is where you would access the database. And if we have any folks on the webinar that are coming from our desktop product, this is one of the areas that are different, is how you access the choices, our database features. So you're kind of accustomed to clicking down at the bottom and seeing choices readily there. But in here, we definitely have the 3 dots, okay? So we can't right click because we're on a browser, right? So if I right click, it shows me my browser settings. So that is why we see the 3 dots on these fields, and you have your choices listed for you there. So I just like to point out those differences for anybody that's making those transitions. So now that I have that information there, I'll show you that you can send a text message by clicking the down arrow on the top right corner and go to send text message. When you do that, you'll be able to select your taxpayer and send them a message saying, season starting soon, and communicate to them. Or if you're doing their return and say, I just submitted your return, I'll let you know when a check is ready to print. That's a quick way to communicate with your taxpayer. And again, your taxpayer can respond back to you. And once they do, you can go ahead and click on here where it says received text messages. So you'll see that for you right there. Okay, moving on below, you're going to go ahead and fill out the fields. And if you're ever wondering what fields are missing, you can either hover your mouse on a particular field, and it's going to tell you the field description that is needed, or you can open up the info tooltip, what I'll show you right now, and that will show you what's needed. So that info tooltip is this blue and white icon to the right, and I'm clicking on this box and I'm like, what do I need to put in there? So I did leave my mouse on the field, and it is small, but it is telling me what that field is looking for. Or I can click on the icon, and now I see at the top it says field description, and it's now telling me which acronym leads to the different ID type. So I'm going to put in a D for driver's license and click enter, and now I'm at my next field of filing status. Okay, so I'm going to leave that info tooltip so you can see how that's working. And I'm going to go ahead and enter a 4. And now that I entered a 4, which is head of household, it bypassed my spouse information, putting me right here at the address. And go ahead and I can pull up my zip codes here, enter that in. And then below is your taxpayer's bank account information. So if you do enter their bank account information, it will flow onto other forms such as the bank application, or the state, getting a direct deposit from a state form, it will flow onto there. So really take the time and fill this out as complete as you can. So this way it flows on to all your other forms. And then lastly, at the bottom of the client data screen, you're going to see your dependent information. So this is where you go ahead and fill in your dependents. Okay, months, MO means months lived for taxpayer, so I'll enter 12. And then it populated my EIC and child tax credit codes for me. So I can definitely go ahead and click the 3 dots and access the choices, or I can go ahead and just leave the defaults that are working for us. So we do populate fields that are necessary based on the data you have entered. If you did want to take in consideration, a popular question I get is, if a child has an IP address, IP PIN, so the identity theft PIN, you can click here on the 3 dots and access the worksheet. And on the worksheet is where you can put in the IP PIN. So I would say definitely pay attention when you do see that worksheet notification appear, or when we are back on that parent form, we can see when I click on that line item, worksheet lit up here and at the bottom. Okay, so that's how we know we have worksheets on those field items for you to enter in data like that. Then at the bottom is where you would enter in any non-dependents. Once you finish your client data screen, which is what I call step 1 for completing a return, our next step is going to click on Add Form. And Add Form is where you add your primary and secondary forms. So you can see here, we open up to our federal tab, and these are all the federal forms that are listed in our software. You can easily search by typing in and adding a form this way. So I can add a Schedule C, click Add. And when you do click Add, it does bring you to that form, and you can fill it out. So we will go through a Schedule C. So I'm just going to call this Test Biz. And then I'll click Add Form again, and I'll add a W-2. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and we're going to fill out the forms together. So just take a note that your Add Form button is at the bottom, and you can always click on that to go ahead and open up the different form options for the window. Okay, so when you are looking throughout the return base, we do want to make sure you guys are carrying through everything. So let me go ahead and let me switch into a return that has a lot of this data entry filled out. So this way I'm not taking in so much information of our data entry time. So give me one moment. And let me switch into this return here. Okay, so I was just at the point of showing you that we're clicking Add Forms. And within here, we have our federals. But if you're just learning and you don't know all the federal form names and numbers, we do have the Index tab. That Index tab is where you can start doing like a keyword search like child and type it in, and it's going to show you the forms that are related to any type of childcare or anything like that. So that is a nice way of getting to know the different forms out there. If you're adding states to your return, we have a state tab. So this is where you add your states. You click on the package, you choose your state, and then you can click Add. When you do go ahead and you click Add, it will then add that state. Now, states are in the process of releasing, so we do release states as we get them. So just be a little patient that all the states get out at the same date. So I'll definitely show you where you can check those state releases. Okay, but just to mention, adding your forms is where you access your states as well. So I was mentioning that we added a Schedule C. So I went ahead and I filled out one to preload. So we have my driving business here. Okay, so you would fill in the name, we have the business code, business name, and you just fill in the fields here. At the top, you'll put in part 1 how much income you made on that business. And then part 2 is where you get to deduct a lot of those expenses. So this is where you would now go into these line items, into these categories, and you say, okay, how much did I spend in advertising? How much did I spend in supplies, travel, meals, and such? So these is where you put the expenses for your business. And when you talk about expenses, we also talk about depreciation. So depreciation is on line 13 of your Schedule C. And when we talk about that, we do have a depreciation button on the left-hand side of the software. And I can now depreciate an asset that's related to my business. Or if I used a vehicle, I can depreciate my vehicle that's working for my business. So I can click on Add Asset. And I'll do my vehicle. So I'll go ahead and enter in a car and truck. And then I will say, okay, what type of vehicle was it? And I can just say it was a Honda. What was the date placed in service? So when did I purchase it? And then what type of vehicle is it? So you select it and click Add. And now you're just going to go through a quick little questionnaire here. How much did the vehicle cost you? And then you're going to access these questions down below. So you're going to answer these yes or no's. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and click them. And again, I'm double clicking to mark my answer. And if you wanted to have the software give the best deduction between mileage or expenses, you're going to click no to the force questions. If you wanted to force the mileage, you would click yes. If you wanted to force the expenses, you would click yes. But if you wanted the software to again choose which gives the best one, you're just going to mark no for both questions. Then you do go ahead and you hit the mileage and expense tab at the top. Now you're going to say, okay, what's my total vehicle mileage? And I'll just put 10,000 for right now. And then what was my total commute mileage? And then my daily commute mileage. So you're just filling in those values. And then how much of the business did I use? So how much mileage pertains to that business? And you fill that in. And then at the bottom, you have your expenses. Okay, so you can say how much in expenses you had there, any vehicle rentals. You have some due diligence questions, right? Did they provide you receipts and written evidence? So you mark those. Okay, so those are things you fill out. And once you're done, you hit close. And then you click OK. And I'll go ahead and close out of my vehicle depreciation. And if I go back to my Schedule C now on the left-hand side, and I scroll down to 13 and part 2 of my expenses, you'll see that my depreciation is filled out and my car and trucks line item is filled out. Okay, so that there is showing you how we just quickly went through that vehicle depreciation and it's already being applied to my Schedule C. Okay. And then at the bottom of your Schedule C, you have your Part 3, cost of goods sold, vehicle information, and then any other expenses that go pertain to your business. There is a section to fill that out. So that is your Schedule C in a nutshell. If we went ahead and click Add Form and add a W-2, I go ahead and now I would fill in the line items for my W-2 as well. And a good thing to note here is when you are adding in W-2s, the software will actually save EIN numbers and routing numbers automatically, your zip codes automatically, and it's customized to your business. So that's what we call our dynamic databases. And you can definitely take a look at our choices. Again, 3 dots hitting choices. And these are the EINs that I've had it added into my office here. So I can easily populate them, and if I needed to switch it, I can, and I'll just hit select and it's going to refresh it there. Okay, so again, the software will automatically add your EINs once you've entered them in for the first time. So once you put it in a return, it saves it so you can populate it on the next return. Speaking of databases, right, for W-2s, a lot of these fields are they come on that W-2, but we have those items listed for you, such as employer use codes. Okay, so we have all those codes listed in here. I don't want you to worry about typing in them in. Go ahead and click on choices whenever you see it light up, and you can access these databases. When we're talking about how we want to file, so I just went over how you fill in your client data screen, you add your forms, whether it's a Schedule C, a W-2, whatever their income sources are, if it's the 2441 for daycare, right? We went over add forms, and that's how you access all of those forms there. When we do see here, I added in a dependent, I added in my income, so our software did preload some forms for us. So my schedule, the EIC credit pre-populated, the EIC checklist pre-populated, my prepare due diligence pre-populated. I did not go in and add those forms. So those schedules will pre-populate because it is necessary from the data you have already entered. Okay. When your next step is choosing how you want your taxpayer to get their refund. So that is on Form 8879. On Form 8879, you'll see you have an option at the top. And if I remove my 1, it's going to be a blank red field just like that when you come to this form. And if you, right now, we are in the season of pre-act loans from the banks. So, and you're dealing with any type of loan from the bank or refund transfer, that's where your taxpayer is getting that money up front. That means you are entering a 5. Okay, up here it notes, it tells you a 5 is a refund transfer from the bank. You're going to note a 5 in this box here. Once you do that, then a bank application will automatically add to the left-hand side here for you to fill out. And then that's where you would opt your taxpayer in for any cash advance loans or the refund transfer, printing a check in your software. All of that happens on the bank application. Okay, and that bank application is only triggered by entering a 5 on the 8879. If they are not wanting anything from the bank, they're wanting either a check or a direct deposit from the IRS, then you're going to enter in either a 1 or a 2. And the check is from IRS, 2 is a direct deposit from IRS. So I'll go ahead and enter a 1, click enter. And then now it's going to note me that I need to make sure I am collecting my prepare fees upfront in an office. Okay, so that means your taxpayer is paying you upfront and they're getting their refund from the IRS. So those are the different options we have there. And of course, if they have a balance due, that means they owe the IRS and you're entering a 4. So that is your 8879. All this information should be preloaded from that office setup you completed before season starts. And that is where your taxpayer is getting their refund. After you fill out your 8879, I say your next step is going to your invoice. The invoice is where you can note your prep fees. So some of you may have a formal billing schedule, an itemized billing schedule filled out, and that would be pre-populated on the forms that you've added to the return. Or you can enter in here what you want to charge, prep fee. And I can say this return cost me $500. Okay, so that is noting your preparation cost. That is where you can do so. You can also go down to the bottom half of the page and you can also note that there's a discount. I can say student discount. I can say I want to give them $50 off. Okay, and I noted that there. So that is just quick ways of either adding a charge or putting a discount on the invoice. And again, you just scroll down to the correct section and that's where it's there. And the total fees will be calculated for you right here at the bottom, noting what I charged, the discount I gave them, and the total being $450. So that's just a quick overview of the invoice. And then once you finalize the return, you've added the forms, you've gone through those checks and balances of how they're getting their refund, putting your prep fee on the return, your next step is to click verify. When you click verify, it's going to bring up any errors that need to be filled out on the return. Okay, so let me trigger just an error real quick. Let me remove something here. Okay, so let's take a look at our prepare due diligence forms. Okay, so I'm just going to note and show you what this form will look like when you do fill it out. So when you come to your prepare due diligence form, it's going to show you the red boxes that you need to answer on behalf of you, how you're checking the information with your taxpayer. So when I click verify, it is going to show me that I have some errors that I need to clear out in order to transmit. I can click on view and fix, and it's going to bring me exactly to that line item that I need to answer. You'll read the question, and then you will mark the question whether it's yes or no. Okay, so it is point and shoot error correction, something we really pride ourselves here with our software that is guiding you through what you need to fix on the tax return. So on the 1040, I need to go ahead and verify that they have not received any virtual currency transactions. So we're going to mark no for that. Click view and fix. Again, back on my due diligence. Okay, and I'm just clicking through, but again, you're going to verify the information. Once you do so, you'll get this message here that says verify successful. That means you are now ready to move on to your final stages. You can now go through the last few stages at the top here. So I mentioned the last 4 stages is your function keys at the top of the return. You have verify return, which we just did. Your next step will be getting your signatures from your taxpayer, so you can click on signatures. And then you'll see final tax return and you'll click sign. And when you do that, it's also going to bring you through a verification. We're all good. We'll click sign. And now we have 2 methods on how you can capture a signature. If they are in office with you, you would just do capture signature and they can sign on your touchscreen device, computer, mouse, or if you have a signature pad. If they're not in the office with you, you can choose remote signature. Remote signature is where you would be able to select text message or email for them to then be able to sign your documents via a secure remote link. So the software will send them a link to either their email or their phone, and they would be able to verify their documents, sign their tax return, and it gets submitted back to the office, and everything would be housed within that document archive that I mentioned. Okay, so those are the 2 ways you would gather a signature, and you just click send. Go ahead and sign the taxpayer. Click accept, and then it's going to generate a PDF. And at this point, if you wanted to download the PDF to your computer or print it, that is up to you. But we can go ahead and we can click close. And I'll show you on the left-hand side, we have that document archive. So it shows me now my final tax return, full return, signed, e-signature. And you can always preview that document with the signatures. So there's a taxpayer signature. Okay, and then if I scroll down, it will also pre-populate the preparer signature and the ERO signature. So that is all nicely done. And again, it's stored within our document archive. You can take a look here that I actually did have some documents loaded in here. And to do so, all I did was click add new document. I'll click browse. And I can go ahead and upload documents to the document archive. So whether they're in your office and you maybe scanned in their documents from your printer, or they did email you their documents, you can upload them straight into the document archive here by just clicking browse. We also have a new way of gathering documents. We have what's called request documents. Request documents is a way to send a secure email to the taxpayer. And you're basically sending them an email saying send docs, need ID and income sources. Okay, you're writing to them what documents you need, who's it for, and just giving an idea of what they need. Hit request. That now sent a secure email to my taxpayer for them to get and for them to be able to upload documents straight into the document archive here. So if I take a quick look here, and I'll show you what that email looks like. Give me 1 second, it's coming in right now. And this is a nice secure way because they do have to verify their information and get their documents. So this is what they get right here. They'll see that they received a message from your tax office, CrossLink. Well, it will show your office name, the email you just sent them, and they'll click upload documents. That will then open up a link for them to verify their information and upload their documents straight into the document archive here. Okay, so that's what that looks like here. So again, they are now verifying, so it's a level of security. that they have to put in, and they would then verify that info. So let me show you what that is. Just typing in that return we did. Okay, you see that it's verifying. And now once they verify, again, they can write you a message back, choose file, choose a W-2, click submit. Now they can add as many documents as you want, or they want. They can click add document and they can upload another document here. Once they're done, all they have to do is close the link. That link that you sent them is good for 3 days. Okay, once that 3rd day passes, they would need a new link, and that's just a security measure. So if we take a look at our return and go back to the document archive, you will now see that those documents are here, the 1099 and the W-2. I can click preview, and there is that form, such as the W-2. So that was a really quick and easy and secure way that your taxpayers were able to upload those documents straight into the document archive here. So take real good use of that, not only technology, but just a very secure method for getting those documents from your taxpayer. And your document archive will store that final tax return for you to always go back and reference. When you click preview, you can print it or download it and give it to your taxpayer. Okay, so that was that signatures point of view that we were going over. And then the last 2 steps we have are printing. So on your print menu, this is where you'll see final tax return and bank documents, any client letters, preview return, paper file. So all of that is housed within your print. And when you do click print final tax return, you will get the option to email the tax return straight to your taxpayer as well. So you'll just click email. It's going to save a return to the document archive. And it's going to show you, again, security for your taxpayer. We do encrypt that PDF. So this is the password that they will need to enter. You can email the password or text the password to your taxpayer. And then click OK. Now it's going to go ahead and it's going to load in the information, and you'll hit send document. That will then send your taxpayer their document to be able to review and have a copy of. So again, nice communication, all from the software, a one-stop shop for you guys on communication and handling your client's tax return. The last step that we have to do is transmit. When you click on transmit at the top, you go ahead, gonna go through another round to make sure all your verifications taken care of. You're gonna hit next, and now you see transmit federal. And if you did a state, you would hit transmit state and then transmit at the bottom here. And that will send your return off to the IRS and to the bank. So you have to make sure we're clicking transmit to send off the return. If you do have preparers that do not transmit, this option here will say submit for review, and that's how they will submit the return to you in order to transmit. So I know that was a quick process of going through the return. So just to recap, your return opens up to the client data screen. You click add forms to add your forms to the tax return. You want to make sure you're going through your 8879, and then you're following the function keys at the top here for your signatures, verify, printing, and transmission, all at the top. And once you're done, the return will go ahead and lock, meaning it's in read-only mode, and then it will close out for you. So that was the full return process. I did want to touch on one other thing before we get to questions, is our TaxPass. So TaxPass is a mobile website for your taxpayers. And how you provide that mobile website to them is providing them a unique URL that is within your office. So that custom URL is again found by clicking on the down arrow of the name here, your profile menu, and click TaxPass URL. You'll see that the URL is here, and I can copy, and I'm going to paste it in my browser. And now that's there for me. You can upload your own logo to TaxPass, but this is the URL you give your taxpayers. This is for them. They will come and click register. They will create an account, and they would then be able to fill in the client data screen, take pictures of their documents, all by clicking register and creating the account here. So when I log in as a taxpayer, you will see that I did start a return. I filled in the client data screen. I added a dependent, W-2. I can even add a W-2. I can select documents, and I can upload documents to the document archive. I can send a message to my tax preparer. So I can go ahead and send that message to them once I submit my return. So all of that is what the TaxPass website is for. It is for your taxpayers. They see your office information, again, adding documents. They can refer a friend. Okay, it's another way for you to remotely gather data and start a return. So once they click save and submit, then that return data is going to go off to the software. So if I go back to CrossLink Online, and I go back to my tax returns tab, you see I have another notification here that says one return ready for import, mobile return. Okay, so that's there. That's where you see your first notification. I also could click on the down arrow and go import returns. And I can show that I have a return to import. But just by clicking import, it will then add it to my tax returns list here. If I switch my toggle, it would also show me returns that I've already imported. Okay, so that is how you go through this importation status once a return has been submitted from your taxpayer from TaxPass. Okay, so it's a quick overview, but it is for your taxpayers to submit documents and their client data screen, all for you to then be able to finish their return. And with that, that will be everything that we just covered for our webinar today of CrossLink Online.